friends in the African American community and the Latino community. My life is far richer for it. Christopher gets the thanks for that. But I wish I had been a little more aware to begin with.
Kevin, what's the #1 challenge that you're facing in the next couple of years? It's interesting. I mean, we talk a little bit about this, and I think in a perfect world, we would have more parents attending PFLAG and less kids that are ending up on the streets. But what do you view as really the challenge moving forward for organizations that serve homeless youth, both here in Portland and nationally?
We really struggle with the higher level resource issue, because we find that when we can engage youth with a case manager and then get them on the road to getting off the streets, looking towards independent and transitional housing programs, once we can get them in that program, our statistics show about an 85% success rate that they leave that program and go on to their own living situation and become productive members of society. It's kind of a funnel when you look at it with street outreach programs we come in contact with. These are duplicated contacts. 30,000 youth within the city of Portland each year our outreach workers make. And then it funnels down into getting youth into our system for services. That's about 1,000 youth a year. And then the funnel gets smaller and smaller, those youth that we can get into higher level services. And there just aren't enough of those services available because they're very expensive to operate. They're 24-hour supervision, on-site services, so they're very expensive to operate. We have wait lists for young people who want to get in. And the other thing is, you can stop this. The other thing is alcohol and drug treatment is horrendous within this population and within the street population, because we've talked about this around rejection from family. And so a youth ends up on the street regardless of their sexual orientation, and in order to mask those feelings of loneliness and desperation on the street, they turn to a lot of times to drugs and alcohol. And we get a lot of young people that start experiencing with that and then become addicted to that, and it's just a lifelong nightmare struggle to get clean and sober. When we have young people come to us, as far as the intake process, we look at every resource. We look at extended family, we look at friends, we look at if they're of a younger age, other service providers, DHS, or other runaway programs. We try to do everything we can to not engage them in our system, because you have to think about 1,000 kids that really aren't supervised. There isn't a lot of adult mentorship there during the daytime or even evenings, and you've got this group together. And I heard a report today on NPR just around adolescent risk taking is huge, and so you get that population alone on the street, and they start engaging in certain activities that just become a lifelong struggle. And so the alcohol and drug treatment within this group is huge as well.
Okay. And Jessica, I know Basic Rights Oregon also has many programs surrounding that, in addition to the legislative action and advocating these issues on a statewide level. In terms of the programs, though, what has been your success, or what has been your understanding of how effective those programs have been, both at school levels and within peer groups, in terms of kind of changing the paradigm of how people view gay and lesbian youth?
To be quite honest, I feel a lot of the policies that have been recently put in place, the non-discrimination law, the anti-bullying law, are so new. We don't really know how well or not well they are, not only in their effectiveness, although it's great that we now have a foundation, but to create that shift in hearts and minds is probably going to take some while to be able to have any measurable ways to find that out, but we know that that's a right step. As far as other programs through Basic Rights, because we are primarily a policy and political action organization, we don't do a lot of the on-the-ground work that PFLAG and Oregon Safe Schools and Janus Youth does. The closest thing that we are able to do, particularly with LGBT youth, is bringing those youth to advocate on their own behalf. And one of the more recent programs that we've started the last couple of years was called Q-Power, which is a long acronym. Folks in the LGBT community really like acronyms, apparently, and so it stands for Queer Portlanders Working in are organizing and working for equal rights, and it's a group of about 10 to 15 young activists in the Portland metro area. And when this group was founded, it was founded by two youth who really understood the impact of homophobia and transphobia in the lives of young people, and really understood what the impact of all the isms that sort of Don was talking about, how those all come together in a certain way, so that they really wanted the group to focus on young people advocating on behalf of their own needs and own issues, but really taking a social justice framework around their activism. And so many of the youth who were involved with that group and who are involved with that group are young LGBT identified folks, and about half of them, I would say, when we started, fell somewhere along the homeless youth spectrum. So they were really able to sort of bring in their own real life experience and using a form of self-empowerment, of social justice and activism to feel empowered and to build relationships and networks. But of course, one of the challenges is that many of those folks didn't have stable living situations, they didn't have the resources they needed to thrive, and our organization couldn't provide those. And we would try to network with other organizations, but there just aren't enough resources and there aren't enough places to go and to get the things that folks need to thrive, even though they have every ability to. And so it's hard to sort of see people with so much potential and the need just to have some really basic resources and not exactly know how to get it to them.
I wanted to actually go ahead and open it up for discussion right now, and take a few questions from the audience. And I guess, Barry, we'll start with you.
Some people, maybe 2 or 3 people on the panel or more, about kids that are really realizing this in their system, that they feel a gender variance of one sort or another, but then that they would have to accept the term gay or something like that. Isn't there a sort of a difficulty with that? Okay.
Accepting the term?
The term gay, yeah.
I have found a lot of adults from 21 to 75 that have trouble with all kinds of labels, but many young people self-identify in some form or other and have a lot of pride. I do have years in the high schools where kids would come at what I would call a questioning stage, and I certainly put a lot of support into saying, you don't have to decide anything today. You've come to me with all of this uncertainty, and I'm here to say it's okay to just be, and to take your time to explore within who you are, how you're feeling, and take your time. There's a handout I use at school counselor conferences that talks about the different approach to young people who come to you saying, I know who I am, and I identify as bisexual, and I'm dealing with my parents, and I want your help, counselor. Well, that's not a place for a counselor to say, oh, take it easy, you don't really know, you're not old enough, you know. The approach needs to be, I'm here for you. But by the same token, if a student comes full of questions, it's not for the counselor to answer those questions. It's for the counselor to affirm and to make the youth aware of resources. And I'm not sure anybody said SMIRC.
Yeah, I thought of that too.
So I want to mention SMIRC because SMIRC doesn't provide housing the way the Janus network of folks, but SMIRC provides counseling. And SMIRC has another letter in there, or another meaning anyway now. So it's Sexual, Gender, and Minority Youth Resource Center. And it's now located on Martin Luther King, used to be out on Belmont. So that's a place that if you meet a youth who's not sure where they can turn, and it's a Wednesday night or a Friday or Saturday, there are open hours for young people to come, and they talk to others who have chosen a label, or there are those who are, well, they have words that I wouldn't use here, I wouldn't use anyway. But I guess I would say gender defiant.
That's it, yeah.
And
Gender
so
defiant.
that's okay. That's who they are. They're choosing not to have any pronouns and to have a name like I think this person wouldn't mind, Click. So the name Click doesn't sound like Susan. It doesn't sound like John. It's just who they are. So I don't know if that